This is Leader Time by FedNet, your podcast source for floor remarks by Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer during the 119th Congress. On May 22nd, Thune and Schumer both addressed the murders of 2 Israeli embassy staff outside an event in Washington the night before. Thune also offered tribute to soldiers on the occasion of Memorial Day. The following material is protected by copyright.
Mr. President, before I begin, I need to mention the shooting that occurred last night outside an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., held by the American Jewish Committee. From everything we know so far, it is appallingly clear that event attendees were deliberately targeted. And 2 young embassy employees, tragically, 2 employees on the verge of getting engaged and starting a life together, were murdered in the attack. I'm grateful that the suspect is already in custody and for the help the Capitol Police provided in responding to the attack, and I know that he will be swiftly prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But I suspect, Mr. President, that is little comfort right now to the many whose sense of safety has been shattered and who are worried that they will be targeted simply because they are Jewish or Israeli. My prayers today are with the families of the deceased, with event attendees, with the employees of the Israeli embassy, and with all the members of the Jewish community suffering in the wake of this attack. And to the Israeli and Jewish communities here in Washington, D.C., know that we stand with you. Mr. President, one other topic I want to mention before I get to the main subject today is the war in Ukraine. For the last 4 months, President Trump has gone to extraordinary lengths to bring an end to the bloodshed in Ukraine, and we here in the Senate commend him for those efforts. Now the ball is in Putin's court. It's time for him to come to the table in good faith and make a serious proposal for an immediate ceasefire that can lead to a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. I hope he realizes it's time to do so. If not, the Senate stands ready to act. Thanks to the dogged work of Senator Graham, we have bipartisan legislation, co-sponsored by 80 of my colleagues, to impose additional economic sanctions and tariffs on Russia. If Russia is not willing to engage in serious diplomacy, the Senate will work with the Trump administration to consider additional sanctions to force Putin to start negotiating. Now, Mr. President, this month I've had the privilege of welcoming 2 groups of South Dakota veterans to Washington during honor flight visits. I went simply to say hello and to thank these men and women for their service to our country. This is something I've done for many years, and it is always an occasion that inspires me and makes me grateful to be an American and an heir to what they fought for. After one of these groups of veterans returned home to South Dakota, KELOLAND News reported on their visit. And a quote from one Vietnam veteran in that story struck me. He said, and I quote, "I'm no hero. The heroes are the ones that didn't get to come back and have families, didn't get to become grandparents. They're the heroes," end quote. Well, Mr. President, this is a common sentiment among veterans. I know my dad, a World War II veteran, never talked much about himself. It was always about the men he served with, especially those who didn't come back. But no matter how many times I hear this, it always stops me in my tracks, because it reminds me that we ask those who serve our country to be willing to sacrifice everything, their entire future and all that it could hold. And many, many Americans have given their lives to defend our security, liberty, and peace. This Monday on Memorial Day, we honor the men and women who sacrificed everything in service to our country. We remember their heroism and courage, and we take inspiration from their commitment to the ideals upon which our country is founded. Mr. President, this year marks 80 years since the end of World War II. Millions of Americans served in the military during the war, and more than 400,000 Americans died. Among these were about 1,700 South Dakotans. Men like Captain Arlo Olson of Toronto, South Dakota, who was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for his bravery in advancing through Italy and who was killed there in 1943. He was 25 years old. Lieutenant Earl Ferguson from Phillip, who died when his B-24 bomber was shot down while targeting an oil field in Romania. He was 26. And Private Glenn Dow from Sioux Falls, who was killed on Omaha Beach on D-Day. Private Dow was 19. Mr. President, these men gave their entire lives to defend our freedom and secure peace for us. They entrusted to us the future that they would not see themselves. And they call on us to defend the peace they won. In one of his Memorial Day proclamations, President Reagan wrote, and I quote, "The defense of peace, like the defense of liberty, requires more than lip service. It requires vigilance, military strength, and the willingness to take risks and make sacrifices." End quote. And then he continued, and I quote again, "The surest guarantor of both peace and liberty is our unflinching resolve to defend that which has been purchased for us by our fallen heroes." End quote. Mr. President, on Memorial Day, we remember that our freedom has come at a cost, and we recognize that it is on us to live up to the ideals for which generations of Americans have been willing to give their lives. These are American heroes, and we are a grateful nation.
Schumer trained criticism on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the budget reconciliation package passed by the House following an early morning debate. He then marks the retirement of a Senate doorkeeper.
Mr. President, last night, just a few blocks from here, at the Capitol Jewish Museum, the scourge of anti-Semitism reared its ugly head yet again in America. The sickening, cold-blooded murder of 2 Jewish staffers from the Israeli embassy seems to be another horrific incident of anti-Semitism, which we all know is much too rampant in our society. Yaron Lashinsky, Sarah Milgram, may their memories be a blessing. Such a blatant and targeted act of anti-Semitism right here in the nation's capital should outrage everybody. A beautiful young couple about to be married, just starting their lives, gunned down seemingly because they were Jewish. Let this be a call to all of us. We must never allow the malicious poison of anti-Semitism to fester and flourish. While we still must learn more about this tragic incident, we do know that when anti-Semitism is rife in the air, all kinds of individuals cling to it and sometimes, unfortunately, act on it. This morning, I'm praying for those who were killed in this senseless act of violence, all those affected, and their families. Now on reconciliation. A few hours ago, while most Americans were fast asleep, House Republicans rammed through their so-called big, beautiful bill through the House of Representatives. In the dead of night, in the hopes that nobody would notice, House Republicans took a bill that was already rotten to the core and made it even worse to appease the most radical factions of their party. It will bring deeper, harder, and even faster pain to the American people. It seems the hard right over there wanted even quicker pain. It's truly jarring to watch House Republicans cheer and pat each other on the back while bond markets spiral and working families are left to worry about how they'll make ends meet. So, this morning, let's take a look at a few ways this bill has gotten even worse as it has reached final passage. We will surely learn more in the coming days, but let me share a few changes Republicans made that Americans deserve to hear. First, this bill was already the largest cut in Medicaid in American history. But now these cuts have been rushed forward and will happen as soon as next year. Moving up the timeline now means that hospitals particularly rural hospitals, have even less time to prepare and increases the chance that they will close and that hundreds in each county will lose their jobs. Up to 14 million Americans are in danger of losing their health insurance. This bill will shut down rural hospitals, community health centers, urgent care clinics, and more. But while hospital beds are closing, Republicans are prioritizing a repeal on tanning bed taxes. And of course, at the last minute, the anti-choice radicals snuck in a new provision, penalizing enrollees in private plans on the ACA exchanges covering reproductive care. Defunding Planned Parenthood wasn't enough. The radicals got their pitchforks and added a provision to effectively ban every insurance premium on every ACA exchange for covering abortion. This is catastrophic and even increases the anti-choice provisions in the bill by a dramatic amount. It'll mean that nearly 1 in 7 Americans who have been insured through ACA since 2014 will be subject to this change. And while our communities get sicker, our kids get hungrier. Republicans weren't satisfied with simply making 4 million kids go hungry. They decided they needed to move up the timeline. Cuts to SNAP will take effect as soon as next year. That makes it even harder for food pantries to adapt. More chaos, more hunger, and more closures among our food pantries and kitchens that serve the hungry. Widespread hunger is now on a fast track. Republicans seem to be saying that the average person who needs food gets only $5 a day. A dozen eggs cost more than $5 a day. And that's the price Republicans accept so they can cut taxes on the wealthy. Republicans are stealing from hungry kids, stealing from low-income families to give trillions in tax giveaways to the wealthy. This is not beautiful. It's ugly. It's revolting. And as the bill proceeds, perhaps the most dramatic changes that occurred overnight is the surrender of America's clean energy future to China. Republicans are condemning Americans to higher energy costs and killing hundreds of thousands, even millions of good-paying jobs. Last night, the Republicans did something else, too. They added a clean job kill switch. At the very last minute, Republicans added a provision that says any project that doesn't break ground within 60 days of this passage will lose the entire tax credit. That's getting rid of the tax credit. No project can start in 60 days. That's not how it works. They know that. They know that the clean energy tax credits are popular. They know that the clean energy tax credits will reduce costs for American families. So instead of saying kill it outright, they say you must start within 60 days. That is saying kill it outright. Everyone knows that. And I saw that some of the hard-right people from the oil patch states were gloating that clean energy is gone. It's one of the most devastating things added at the last minute in this bill, snuck in the dark of night. And we in the Senate, and I hope our Republican colleagues will join us in this, are going to fight this every step of the way. Much of the clean energy industry will be dead. As I said, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of jobs will be lost. And China, 10 years from now, will be dictating what happens in our energy markets to our children. To make matters even worse, of course, the bill also raises taxes on some projects that are underway. Donald Trump says he wants America to dominate energy, and then he does this? Taxing energy projects, raising costs for families? Nope. Donald Trump, what you're doing is absolutely stupid and counterproductive. You don't even know what you're doing. You just think, oh, clean energy, let's get rid of it. We'll rely on oil, gas, and coal. Well, there ain't enough oil, gas, and coal to fuel the world, and it's more expensive to do it, Donald Trump. What the heck are you doing? This is an American energy kill switch. Jobs vanish in solar, jobs vanish in wind, manufacturing jobs go to China, just the opposite of what the president says he wants, and people's electric bills go up. So, America, when your electric bill starts going up, talk to Donald Trump, talk to the Republicans in the House, and please talk to Republicans in the Senate and tell them not to move forward on this folly. Republicans call their bill a tax break, but in reality, it's a tax hike, a job killer, except for China, where it's a job creator. China wins, America loses. In the coming days, Americans will take a look at Republicans' big, beautiful bill and discover it gets uglier and uglier the closer they look. The bill hopefully has a doomed future in the Senate. Senate Democrats will let hell freeze over and fight this in every way that we can. Donald Trump told House Republicans that voting no on his bill would be the ultimate betrayal, but the real betrayal this morning was Republicans voting yes, a betrayal of the American people, because there's nothing beautiful about the biggest cuts to Medicaid in American history. Nothing beautiful about cutting SNAP benefits so children go hungry, can't learn or have productive lives. Nothing beautiful about cutting SNAP benefits by over $200 billion. Senate Democrats will oppose this morally bankrupt bill with every fiber in our being, every fiber. And now on a more happy note. When Ruth Carnegie took a job with the Senate doorkeepers 5 years ago, she quickly impressed everyone with her calm competence and her ability to handle chaos, which of course made perfect sense. She had spent the previous 3 years working for me. Next week, after 3 years in Schumerland, 12 years in the Senate, and 22 years on Capitol Hill, Ruth will move on to her next chapter. Now, it might surprise you that someone whose dream is to raise down the Autobahn found a home here in the Senate, an institution not known for its pace. But in truth, Ruth was built for both. When things moved fast, Ruth could keep up. When things slowed her down, Ruth could be steady. She's soft-spoken, yet strong. She has a combination of humility, wisdom, and strength. And one of the things I admire most about Ruth is that she always lifts up everyone around her, being a mentor to many people who have and will go on to do great things. So, Ruth, thank you, thank you, thank you. You've left an indelible mark on the Senate, and you've earned a very happy retirement.
Thanks for listening. This program is copyrighted by Federal Network, incorporated and provided only for informational and educational purposes. Unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or use of this episode without expressed written permission from FedNet is prohibited. Look for more episodes when Congress returns in June.